The earth trembles. The world first noticed the change not in the skies, but in the ground beneath their feet. It began with a strange rumbling that scientists could not fully explain. Seismographs spiked with activity across Asia and South America. Earthquakes rippled through regions that had been geologically stable for centuries. In Mexico City, an entire district collapsed into a yawning sinkhole hundreds of meters wide. In rural China, entire farmlands disappeared, swallowed by the earth as if the planet itself had opened its jaws. At first, humanity called it a natural disaster. News channels labeled it the Great Seismic Wave. Politicians promised aid, engineers scrambled to reinforce cities, and people whispered nervously about climate change, tectonic shifts, and punishment from the heavens. But Superman knew better. He had heard the planet scream. High above Metropolis, Clark Kent hovered in the upper atmosphere. His eyes closed, his ears tuned to the very heartbeat of Earth. He could hear everything: the breaking of stone under pressure, the groaning of ancient caverns, the echo of something vast moving beneath the crust. It wasn't random. The tremors had rhythm like footsteps. And those footsteps were marching upward. Superman's heart clenched with unease. He had faced aliens, gods, and machines of impossible power, but this was different. This was coming from the very soil of the planet he had sworn to protect. He dove downward in a streak of red and blue, piercing the air like a comet, landing with a thunderous crack near one of the largest sinkholes in Chile. Dust clouded the sky as survivors stumbled out, coughing, crying, terrified. "Superman!" they cried, reaching for him. The ground. It swallowed them. Families, whole buildings, gone. Clark's jaw tightened. He activated his X-ray vision, staring into the abyss. What he saw froze him. The sinkhole was not just a hole. It was a tunnel. A massive one, spiraling down into the depths like a wound cut into the earth. And at the very bottom, faintly glowing veins of crystal pulsed, as if the planet itself had arteries carrying light. For a moment, he thought it beautiful, until shadows began to move within that glow. Creatures. Tall, armored, insectoid in movement but humanoid in shape. Their eyes glimmered like molten gold, and their weapons shimmered with forged crystal. They marched upward, thousands of them in perfect formation. Superman's fists clenched. Humanity was not facing an earthquake. This was an invasion. The Daily Planet office was in chaos hours later. Perry White shouted over the newsroom clamor. "Kent! Lane! Olsen! Where are my updates? Every feed says the ground itself is spitting out monsters. What the hell are we telling the people?" Lois Lane slammed her desk. "We tell them the truth, Perry. That this isn't over, and that Superman is already fighting to hold the line." Clark adjusted his glasses, quietly slipping into his chair. His shirt still damp from underground battles only hours before. He had descended into the tunnel in Chile, fought against those crystalline warriors, and barely forced them back with sheer strength. But for everyone he knocked down, 10 more seemed to rise. "They're not stopping," Clark murmured softly, more to himself than anyone else. "They're organized. They're testing the surface." Lois's sharp eyes caught the distant tone in her husband's voice. She reached under the desk, squeezed his hand and whispered, "Clark, what did you see down there?" He looked at her, the weight of truth heavy in his eyes. "A civilization. Not just an army, an entire world. They've been waiting below us, hidden for millennia." Perry slammed another folder onto his desk. "World governments are panicking. Some want to nuke the tunnels before the thing spread. Others say we can negotiate. But if you ask me, this is war." Clark felt the knot tighten in his chest. War beneath the earth. He had sworn never to let humanity face annihilation again. Yet he also knew something no one else did. The sunlight did not reach the caverns. And without sunlight, Superman was weaker. That night, Superman descended again. He stood on the edge of the Chilean sinkhole, cape rippling in the cold wind, before dropping into the abyss. The deeper he went, the darker it became. his solar energy draining as rock swallowed the last rays of daylight above. But still he pushed downward, determined to find the truth. For hours he flew through vast underground highways carved by alien machines, passing chambers filled with colossal statues of armored kings, rivers of glowing magma, and forests of crystal that hummed like organs in some vast cathedral. At last he reached a city. It stretched across the cavern like a kingdom forged in nightmares. Spires of obsidian and crystal towers reached upward, their peaks scraping the cavern ceiling. Bridges of light connected battlements that glowed with ancient runes. And everywhere the Subterraneans marched, warriors, beasts, civilians, all preparing for war. Superman hovered at the gates, his presence drawing thousands of golden eyes. A horn sounded, deep and resonant, shaking the cavern. From within the palace, a figure emerged, towering, armored, wearing a crown of jagged crystal. His eyes burned with molten fury, his voice rumbling like shifting stone. "Kal-El of the surface," he thundered, shocking Superman with the knowledge of his true name. "You descend into the domain of the forgotten. We are the Subterraneans, the first children of Earth. And we have come to reclaim what is ours." Superman straightened, even as his body weakened in the absence of sunlight. He summoned every ounce of courage, his voice steady. "This planet belongs to all who live upon it," he said. "If you mean harm to humanity, you will answer to me." The Subterranean king's laughter echoed like an earthquake. "Then, Kryptonian, prepare to watch your precious humans crushed beneath the soil." And with that, the ground itself trembled, this time not from nature, but from war drums. Superman knew then, humanity's greatest battle was not in the skies or stars, but in the very earth beneath their feet. The Subterranean king. The throne room of the Subterranean Empire glowed with a light not born of sun or flame. The walls pulsed with veins of luminous crystal, each one thrumming like the heartbeat of the planet itself. The air was thick, heavy, alive with a mineral scent that reminded Superman of dust after rain. At the center of it all sat King Drovath, ruler of the Subterraneans. His body was carved in living armor, obsidian plates fused to muscle, his veins glowing with molten energy. His crown was not crafted but grown from the earth, jagged shards of crystal that hummed with deep vibrations. When he spoke, it was not merely his voice. It was the voice of the earth itself echoing through stone. "You are not welcome here, Kal-El," Drovath declared, his words shaking dust from the cavern ceiling. "This is the first domain, the cradle of life. Long before your kind crawled upon the surface, we ruled this world. You and the humans above are trespassers." Superman stood in silence, cape flowing behind him, his chest rising with steady breath. He had faced gods, warlords, and despots, but Drovath's presence felt different, rooted, ancient, immovable. And worse, the deeper he stood within these caverns, the more he could feel his solar strength ebbing. Here, surrounded by endless rock, he was just a man in a cape. "Humanity has thrived on the surface for thousands of years," Superman answered, voice calm but firm. "They have built civilizations, art, science, hope. Whatever claim you had, it was left behind when you chose to remain hidden." The king leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing into blazing slits. "Hidden. We were forced into exile. When the skies burned and the seas boiled, it was we who fled beneath the soil while the weak perished above. We built our empire in darkness, where no sun could scorch us. And now, when the surface has fattened itself upon the earth's bounty, you think yourselves rulers. No, Superman. You are squatters upon our birthright." The court around Drovath erupted in thunderous stomps, soldiers slamming their crystal-forged spears upon the ground. The sound echoed like rolling thunder, shaking dust from the cavern ceiling. Superman clenched his fists, feeling the weight of their hatred pressing in. He understood now. This was not a mindless horde. This was a people with history, pride, and rage boiling after millennia in the dark. "You've survived here," he said carefully. "But survival does not grant dominion." Humanity has as much right to the surface as you do. There can be peace, Drovath. A world shared. Drovath rose from his throne with a movement that sent vibrations through the cavern. He was massive, nearly rivaling Doomsday in stature. His body a blend of flesh and stone. As he stepped closer, Superman felt the ground respond, shifting as if alive beneath the king's feet. "Peace," the king hissed. "Your humans poison rivers, strip mountains bare, and scar the very soil with their machines. They are children wielding fire. They do not deserve the earth. We will take it back. We will shatter their cities and drag them into the soil, where they may serve us or perish." Superman's eyes glowed faintly with heat vision, though dimmer than usual. "If you rise against humanity, you will face me." The king tilted his head, studying him with an almost amused expression. Bold words, for a Kryptonian star-child cut off from his precious son. Superman froze. Drovath knew. "You feel it, don't you?" The king pressed, circling him now like a predator. "Down here beneath the mantle, where no sunlight dares reach, your power withers. Every hour you remain, you become weaker. You are no god here, Superman. You are but another fragile surface dweller." The soldiers jeered, their voices echoing off crystal walls. Superman remained still, his face a mask of control, but inside he felt the truth gnawing at him. Already his limbs ached. Already his body felt heavier than it should. But he would not yield. "Even without the sun," Superman said, his voice steel, "I am still more than enough to stand against tyranny." The king's smile was grim. "Then you will fall in darkness." Hours later, back on the surface, the world spiraled into chaos. Global broadcasts showed monstrous warriors rising from sinkholes in Africa and Eastern Europe. Subterranean skirmishes tore through villages, highways, and towns. The armies of the deep were not invading in one place. They were emerging everywhere. Humanity's maps could not contain the spread, for the Subterraneans knew the Earth's veins better than any surface dweller. In Washington, the president called for nuclear contingencies. In Beijing, generals demanded full-scale bombardments. In Moscow, analysts predicted entire continents could collapse if the tunnels beneath were destroyed too recklessly. The human race was terrified. At the Daily Planet, Lois Lane watched the feeds with grim determination. Beside her, Jimmy Olsen's camera trembled in his hands. "Lois, if they're really everywhere, how do we even fight something like this?" Lois's jaw tightened. "With truth. With courage. Humanity has survived every empire that claimed to own it. These Subterraneans are no different. And we'll show them why." But inside she feared for Clark. Every hour he spent below ground was another hour his strength withered. If Superman fell, could humanity still rise? Back in the depths, Superman was escorted through crystalline corridors, surrounded by spearmen whose armor shimmered like obsidian mirrors. He was not shackled, but the message was clear. He was a guest only as long as Drovath allowed. They brought him to a balcony overlooking the vast underground city. Caverns stretched for miles, filled with glowing rivers of magma and towers that pierced the darkness. Millions of Subterraneans moved like one great organism, their chants shaking the air. Drovath stood beside him, pride swelling in his granite-hard chest. "Behold," the king rumbled, gesturing to the endless city. "The first domain. The womb of Earth. We have endured without sun, without sky, without mercy. What can your fragile humans offer that we have not mastered tenfold?" Superman looked at the armies below, then back at the king. His voice was quiet but resolute. "Hope. The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. That even in darkness we can find light." The king's laugh was like grinding stone. "Hope does not shatter mountains. Hope does not command empires. Hope is weakness, Superman. And soon I will carve it from the hearts of mankind." As the war drums thundered below, Superman realized the truth. This was not simply an invasion. It was a crusade. And unless humanity stood together, the surface world would drown in shadows. For the first time in years, Superman felt fear. Not for himself, but for the world he loved. The war beneath the earth. The first battles began at dawn, though sunlight never touched them. From the plains of Kenya to the forests of Brazil, vast sinkholes split the land like open wounds. Out of them surged subterranean legions, armored soldiers with crystalline blades, beasts with obsidian hides and molten breath, siege engines of stone that moved on their own as if alive. Humanity, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. In Paris, tanks rolled into the streets as subterranean warriors burst from the catacombs, shattering centuries-old stone. In Cairo, pyramids shook as armies swarmed from below, clawing their way into the desert night. The world watched in terror as news feeds captured battle after battle. The earth was not safe. The earth was the enemy. And yet, in every battlefield, there was a streak of red and blue. Superman. He moved like lightning through the chaos, striking down war beasts with his fists, intercepting falling rubble before it crushed families, carrying survivors from collapsing bridges. But he was stretched thin. For every battle he won, 5 more broke out across the globe. And each time he descended deeper into a cavern, he felt his strength waning, as if the darkness itself drank the sun from his veins. Still he fought. In Chile, the ground war became a crucible. Subterranean forces poured through the same sinkhole where Superman had first encountered them. The Chilean military, outnumbered and outmatched, fell back toward Santiago, their guns barely scratching the crystalline armor of the invaders. That was when Superman descended, landing like a meteor in the center of the battlefield. "Hold the line!" a captain shouted, voice hoarse. "With him here we can." The soldiers, terrified moments before, surged with renewed courage. Superman ripped through the enemy ranks, crystal blades shattering against his skin, obsidian shields collapsing under his blows. Yet even as he fought, he realized something. The Subterraneans did not break. They did not retreat. They fought with the discipline of an army that had been training for war for millennia. And then the earth itself rose against him. A beast the size of a skyscraper erupted from the sinkhole, its body a writhing mass of stone and crystal. Its roar shook the valley. Soldiers scattered, but Superman leapt forward, catching its massive fist before it could crush the retreating lines. For minutes they wrestled, titans locked in struggle, the ground shattering beneath their feet. Finally, with a roar, Superman heaved the beast off balance and slammed it into the earth so hard the shockwave rippled for miles. The soldiers cheered. For a moment hope surged. But deep inside Superman knew. This was only the beginning. Back in Metropolis, the Daily Planet newsroom worked around the clock. Lois Lane's voice carried across every broadcast, her words sharp, steady, unyielding. "This is not the end," she declared, staring into the camera. "This is not humanity's last chapter. The Subterraneans believe we are fragile, unworthy of the earth we live on. But they have not seen what humanity can endure. We have survived plagues, wars, disasters, and tyrants. We will survive this. And we will rise stronger." Her words spread like wildfire across the globe. In New Delhi, miners descended into the earth armed with explosives to sabotage subterranean tunnels. In Canada, engineers repurposed drilling equipment into makeshift war machines. In Japan, scientists raced to design artificial solar lamps to give soldiers fighting underground a fragment of sunlight's power. Humanity was not waiting to be saved. Humanity was standing beside Superman. In the caverns of South America, Superman led a strike force of miners and soldiers deep into enemy tunnels. They carried floodlights, solar lamps, and railguns designed to pierce crystalline armor. Superman himself carried little but his will, his powers fading with every mile underground, his fists bruised from endless combat. The tunnels echoed with war. Subterranean soldiers surged in waves, their golden eyes burning through the dark. Superman fought at the front, not above the humans but beside them. When his strength faltered, a soldier stepped in. When a soldier stumbled, Superman caught them. It was not a god leading men. It was men and a god fighting as one. Push forward. Superman shouted, voice ragged. They can bleed. They can break. A young miner beside him, face smeared with soot, grinned fiercely. Ain't no stone that men with hammers can't crack, he yelled, swinging a sledgehammer into a soldier's chest, shattering its armor. The others roared, courage blazing brighter than the cavern crystals. The deeper they went, the more brutal the fight became. Corridors became killing grounds. Cavern walls shook with detonations as humanity carved its way into the first domain. And still, the war drums thundered. Far below, in his throne room, King Drovath watched the battles unfold in crystal projections. His lieutenants knelt, reporting losses, but he showed no fear. Let the surface children throw their stones, he growled. Let them bleed themselves dry. For every one that falls, the earth will give me 10 more. They are fragile. They are soft. When their champion breaks, so will their spirit. But even as he spoke, he could not shake the unease that had begun to gnaw at him. Superman had stood against armies that should have crushed him. Worse, the humans were adapting, learning, fighting with fire in their eyes. They are only human, Drovath whispered to himself, though the words felt hollow. Hours later, deep in the tunnels, Superman collapsed to one knee, his body trembling. The absence of sunlight gnawed at him, leaving his skin pale, his breath shallow. Clark! A soldier shouted, rushing to his side. I'm fine, Superman forced out, though his vision blurred. He pushed himself upright, swaying. Keep moving. Humanity doesn't stop. Neither do I. The soldiers rallied, helping him forward. Together, they pressed deeper into the abyss. At last, they reached a vast cavern, the staging ground of the Subterranean army. Thousands of warriors prepared for the march, beasts chained and armored, siege engines ready. It was an army poised to rise and drown the surface world in fire and stone. Superman stepped forward, his voice carrying through the cavern. This ends now. The Subterraneans turned, their war drums faltering. For a heartbeat, silence fell. Then the cavern erupted in chaos as battle was joined. Superman led the charge, his weakened fists still strong enough to break shields, his voice still strong enough to rally men. Humanity surged behind him, lights blazing, weapons firing, hearts unbroken. The war beneath the earth had begun in full. And in that darkness, one truth became clear. Superman was not humanity's savior. He was their shield. But it was humanity itself, fierce and unyielding, that would decide whether the earth would belong to them or the shadows. From soil to stars, the cavern shook with the thunder of war. Crystals shattered under the fury of combat, magma rivers boiled as siege engines exploded, and the air was filled with a deafening mix of roars, screams, and collapsing stone. Superman stood at the forefront, his cape torn, his fists bloodied, his strength dwindling with each moment away from the sun. But still he fought. A crystal spear pierced his side, and he ripped it free, hurling it back into the enemy lines. A molten beast lunged at him, jaws wide, but he drove it into the ground with a desperate surge of strength. The soldiers and miners behind him cheered, their courage unbroken despite the overwhelming tide. Keep pushing, Superman roared, his voice echoing through the cavern. They can bleed. They can break. Together we can win. The humans pressed forward, floodlights blazing against the darkness. Railguns fired, hammers smashed, and explosives tore through the crystalline ranks. Yet the Subterraneans seemed endless, a tide of armored warriors pouring from tunnels that stretched into eternity. For every enemy that fell, more emerged. Superman knew they couldn't hold forever. Not like this. High above, in Metropolis, Lois Lane stood before a global broadcast. Her eyes burned with determination, her voice steady as steel. Humanity is not alone in this fight. Our soldiers, our workers, our families, all of us, stand shoulder to shoulder with Superman. But he cannot fight in the dark forever. He needs us. He needs our light. She gestured to the scientists and engineers behind her, working frantically around towering machines. These, Lois continued, are artificial solar reactors, designed in days by the brightest minds of our world, portable suns. With them we bring daylight into the darkness. Her words ignited something across the globe. Convoys of solar reactors rolled toward battlefronts. Helicopters carried them into sinkholes. Engineers risked their lives lowering massive arrays into the depths. Humanity wasn't just fighting. Humanity was adapting. Humanity was creating light where none existed. Deep in the cavern battlefield, a soldier shouted, pointing upward. "Look!" From the tunnels above, a massive reactor descended, suspended by cables and guarded by soldiers. Its panels unfolded like wings, glowing brighter and brighter until the cavern was filled with golden radiance. The Subterraneans shrieked in agony, their golden eyes burning as the false sun bathed them. Their crystalline armor cracked, their molten veins sputtered. And Superman breathed. The warmth hit him like a tidal wave. His skin glowed faintly, his lungs filled with fire. His heart thundered with renewed strength. The weakness that had clung to him for days fell away as the light surged into his cells. He rose slowly, eyes blazing with heat vision that now burned brighter than ever. "I am Kal-El of Krypton," he declared, his voice carrying like rolling thunder. "But I am also Clark Kent of Earth. And this world, our world, will never bow to you." The cavern trembled as Superman launched himself into the air, striking the enemy lines with renewed fury. His fists shattered obsidian shields. His heat vision cut through ranks of warriors. His presence alone igniting the humans around him into a frenzy of defiance. The tide began to turn. In his throne chamber, King Drovath raged as reports of collapse reached him. His armies faltered. His beasts burned beneath the artificial suns, and his empire trembled. "No!" he growled, slamming his fist into the crystal throne, shattering it. "This cannot be. We are the first children. The surface is ours by right." Grabbing his colossal warhammer, forged from the heart of the earth itself, he stormed from his chamber. "If they will not yield, I will crush their champion myself." The final clash came in the heart of the cavern city. Superman hovered in the glow of the artificial suns, his cape blazing like fire, when the ground split open and King Drovath emerged, towering armored, his hammer crackling with molten energy. "Kal-El," Drovath roared. "Face me, or your humans will be buried alive." Superman descended, landing hard enough to crack stone. He stared into the king's burning eyes. "No more speeches," Superman said coldly. "This ends now." They collided like worlds colliding. The hammer swung, its shockwaves tearing through stone, but Superman caught it, straining, muscles trembling with power restored. He drove his fist into Drovath's chest, sending the king crashing through a crystal tower. Drovath roared, leaping back, striking again and again. Their battle shook the cavern, shattering spires, collapsing bridges. Humans and Subterraneans alike stopped fighting to watch titans clash in the heart of the first domain. "You cannot win," Drovath bellowed. "For every star you summon, the earth will reclaim it. We are endless." Superman gritted his teeth, blocking another hammer strike, then unleashing a blast of heat vision that seared the king's armor. "Maybe you're endless," Superman growled, "but humanity is infinite. Their courage, their hope, their will, they're stronger than stone, stronger than shadow, stronger than you." With a final surge, Superman caught the hammer mid-swing, wrenched it from Drovath's hands, and shattered it across his knee. The king staggered back, roaring in defiance, but Superman drove forward, his fist slamming into Drovath's chest with the force of a collapsing star. The king fell. The cavern went silent. Then, with a rumble like distant thunder, the subterranean army broke. Warriors fled into tunnels, beasts roared and scattered. The great city trembled as if mourning its ruler. The war was over. As the dust settled, Superman stood amidst the wreckage, his cape torn, his body battered, but his spirit unbroken. The humans around him raised their lights high, cheering, their voices echoing through the cavern. They had won. Not because of him alone but because they had fought together. Superman lifted his gaze upward through the tunnels, imagining the sky above. For days he had been trapped in darkness, yet humanity had brought him the sun. That was the true victory. Later, as dawn broke across the surface, Superman stood with Lois on the balcony of the Daily Planet. The city stirred below, scarred but alive. The world had changed. Humanity had faced extinction and survived, not by cowering behind him, but by standing beside him. Lois rested her head against his shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. "No," Superman said softly. "We did it." He looked upward to the sky. The war beneath the earth had ended, but Drovath's final warning still lingered. Earth is only one of many worlds beneath the stars preparing to reclaim their surfaces. Superman knew new battles would come. But he also knew this. No matter what rose from soil or descended from stars, humanity would endure. Because the light of hope, the light he had seen in miners, soldiers, and ordinary people, was brighter than any sun. And that was why this world, fragile yet unyielding, was worth protecting forever.